Every day I wake up and I feel so alive. I think to myself.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Cheeky Cauldron podcast, where no topic is too spicy for the pot. I am your co-host, Ani Williams, and I'm joined again with my lovely friends and fellow co-host, Mai Cherie and Tamika Soretti. During our last segment, we unpacked everything that had to do with Battle of the Sexes and discussed dating through to divorcing a narcissist. During our next segment, we have decided to unpack counterculture lifestyles and explore sexy subcultures that live on the fringe of American society. This is a very important topic because it's always relevant and necessary to challenge societal norms and take care of people that live in these subcategories. So I can't wait, and I want to jump right in. Tamika, what is our first topic in counterculture lifestyles?
All right, ladies. Give a very warm welcome to our very cheeky guest, Miss Liv Pavlov.
Welcome.
She is a tantric healer and a sex and intimacy coach. Welcome, Liv. Thank you so much for coming out with us.
Thank you for having me.
And we are super excited to jump into this simmering pot this month on the countercultural lifestyles. But before we do that, y'all know we got to talk food, right?
Yes.
Because we love to
Yeah, we do.
All right. Well, my pick of the week was 1618 Asian fusion. And let me tell y'all something. It's over on East Riverside. If you're in Austin, Texas, then you know exactly where that is. And it's the first of its kind locally owned restaurant. It's owned by Kevin Lee and Lynn Tran. And listen, they are doing something over there with Asian food.
That food was so good.
It was so good.
It's amazing.
Oh, you've been there?
Oh, I've been there. I love it. Yeah, it's really good.
You know, we did say we need to start taking our guests with us to eat so that way we'd have a little bit more rapport and they would know what we're talking about. But since you've been there, you know.
Tell me next time you go.
Yeah.
We'll go together.
Well, 1618 focuses on bold, diverse flavors of Asia. And I'm talking about they span the continent. Like we're talking Vietnamese, Thai, Chinese, Singaporean, and Southeast Asian. And let me tell y'all something. I don't know what's going on with me, but right now, Thai is my favorite food.
Ooh.
I love Thai.
Even though I don't like spicy.
There's something sensual about Thai food.
It is.
Yeah.
So yummy.
Yeah. But, and they didn't just do it well on the food. What about the atmosphere, y'all? It was very Zen-like, very modern and sophisticated. And I loved it. When we walked in, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
So did it feel comforting for you too?
Yeah. Lights, great lighting. Yeah.
The lighting too. That's what I was thinking. The lightings were really cool.
Yeah.
So what did y'all
Like
think
the
about 1618?
My favorite thing, honestly, was the dessert. And I know I'm jumping to the end, but I wasn't expecting it to be that good. And watching her make it and the fire, and I mean, everybody will see it who can watch, but I just thought that was really fun and yummy.
Oh, yeah, it was. Yeah. And it's funny because some of the pictures that we took, the girl sitting behind her was just like, she was in amazement. And
I didn't even notice that.
Well, because I didn't pick one of those pictures, but let's talk about that fish, though.
Yeah, the fish
Oh, yeah.
was
I really love that.
I think it's something about Asian cuisine that they know how to do that whole fish right. I mean, because we had kind of the same thing at Lynn.
We got the red snapper.
Yeah, the crispy
time.
Red snapper.
You know, I took that sauce home.
You did?
Well, they gave us like a giant bowl of sauce.
Yeah, I took it home and like added it to a lot. I love sauces, and so I took it home. It was delicious. It was so good.
Okay, well, let's stop talking about it. Bryce, can you roll the tape so the people can see it?
There we are. Oh, I like that too. There was an explanation of the restaurant when you first walked in. That was cool.
Aww.
See, there go the
lights.
lights.
Yeah.
The lighting's beautiful.
Oh, the cocktails were good too.
Oh, and the wine.
Ooh, that's that sugarcane shrimp right there.
Yes.
They had a special on the wine as well, right? That you.
Yeah, hold on. I'm going to mention that, girl.
There goes the fish.
There goes the fish.
Which I know for some
Legendary.
people, it freaks them out to eat a whole fish. But I think if you're going to eat an animal, you should be able to see its face.
Yes.
I wouldn't say all that.
I think you should, though, or else be a vegetarian.
Okay, here's your dessert, girl.
The trickiest part is like,
Have you had that?
no,
So it's a cheesecake, and that's cinnamon. So the cinnamon, like it's like a chemical reaction that happens, and so it creates this beautiful like flame and smoky, and it's so delicious.
Oh,
so
creme
good.
brulee.
And
yes.
they do it like
is
creme
one of my
brulee.
favorites, too. But just going back to what you were saying about the wine, they call it Wine Down Fridays, and they have a 30 to 50% off discount on bottles of wine. And so that's why Austin Hope is one of my favorite wines. And so they kind of
that bottle of wine was just for Tamika, everybody.
Yes.
Me nor my
didn't
had
have
any
any.
wine.
Hey, they twisted my arm.
They
I had
did.
but I took it home. I did not drink the whole bottle of wine there at the restaurant.
I do want to give a shout out to the service there as well. It was amazing. And even the people who weren't our direct server were amazing. And when
Yes.
you didn't like, your cocktail didn't come back the way you
Oh
wanted
yeah,
it.
but
No,
they made
no.
it
But
right.
the way they handled it, like they
Mhm.
really cared. She really took it personally. Like, I will make sure this cocktail is perfect.
Yes.
And that I think is amazing.
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
like when you feel taken care of.
Yes.
Yeah.
that was-
I
yeah.
agree.
But I have to say that I used to be a server a long time ago, but we have found that, and I'm amazed at it here in Austin, of the places that we went to, all of the service so far across the board has been like phenomenal.
I agree. And I
Yeah.
think that when the chef and the curator of the restaurant cares about the menu, they also care about the whole atmosphere
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
serving. So anyway, I just wanted to make sure we gave a shout out to them.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So
yes.
we've been eating our way across Austin so far, you know.
Yes.
Okay, so I know we say that no topic is too spicy for the pot.
Here we go.
Yeah.
We're going to
Coming from last week with the sex episode, and now we're going to get into this. This week is not going to be no different. We're going to leave out of here schwitzen. Okay, so I'm going to start by saying I had no idea about sex growing up except for the heteronormative ideas that had been passed down to me. And so to hear about the Kama Sutra, when I did, I just knew it was a dirty book with naked people in it and they were doing it. And I was like, and I couldn't wait till I, got old enough so I could like look in it and see it. And y'all, I did go out and buy one copy. And so this is Ann Hooper's Kama Sutra. I don't know where she is on the fame scale of the books of Kama Sutra because it has been published so many different times by so many different people.
Yeah, I had a similar thing growing up. I didn't even know about the Kama Sutra until I was in my 20s.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, what is this? And I thought it had something to do with like kink or whatever, but go on.
Yeah, but I was surprised to find out in my research that it is more than just a sex manual. It is, it's about the philosophy and the theory of love and what triggers desire and what sustains it and when it's good or bad, So it had me really, really interested. Now, I'm going to just go through some facts before we get really going. The Kama Sutra was written in an abstract, vague form of Sanskrit. And it makes it hard to accurately translate. So that has me thinking, like, I know a lot of those writings because they found it in a temple in Rajasthan in India. And it not only had all the writings, which is kind of poetry and prose, but it had all of the carvings of these naked people having sex. And so somebody took that and just translated it. And now we have what I feel like is this watered down version of what the Kama Sutra
Did
really...
they translate all of the scripture too? Is it somewhere?
It's somewhere, yes.
Okay.
And really what happened was there was a British explorer. His name was Sir Richard Burton. And he went over
That sounds
there.
British.
Yeah, very British. And he went over there and he kind of like took these texts and stuff. Okay, so it's made up, the Kama Sutra is made up of 1,250 verses, split into 36 chapters, which then in turn make it into like 7 different books. And that's a lot.
That is, and it's interesting that there's 7 chakras that go down, and there's 7 books, and I want to
Yes.
read that original
The
transcript.
original transcript.
I wish I could.
I don't know. You might have
Yeah.
a tough time finding that.
I
I
was reading
know.
something that it was written between the 1st and 3rd century, so there's a lot that's like missing. Like we don't have all the manuscripts. Like
Yeah.
it's a
Well, I had the 2nd and 3rd century, so I guess, depending on where you researched and read,
Yeah.
kind of around the same time. But it was written by an ancient Indian philosopher named Vatsyayana. And so, anyway, y'all want to hear a little bit about those 7 different parts?
Yes, of course.
I mean, I may not be able to translate all the Indian, what they are, but these are the general principles of Hindu life. Like one, the Dataka, and that's a general principle. It's an intro and history of 4 aims of Hindu life and how to live an honorable life. And how did that
I'm sorry, just
Beautiful.
real quick, because I know we want to move through, but the idea that was one of the books, and everyone thinks of Kama Sutra as a sex manual.
I was just about to say that.
Oh, yeah, that's crazy.
I was about to say, how does that
How
translate
much is
to
lost?
this? Yeah.
Go on.
And I mean, all of these principles are really, really like for everybody to live by. So number 2, I'm going to try to go fast. The Suvaranaba, amorous advances sexual union. And this is the part that we see in it's the sexual part.
Right.
All of those positions. That basically is what this book is. So they should be like, oh, it's the second principle of the
Of
Kama
the
Sutra.
7 principles.
Yeah, of the 7 principles, because that's not it. And it's 64 types of sexual acts.
Okay.
Who knew there were 64?
This is already correlating to the chakras, but go on.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can't
yeah.
wait to hear what 3
So
is.
number 3, go to Kanmuka, acquiring a wife, and this is how a bachelor courts a woman for marriage. And a lot of this is based on your astrological, how you get along with another person's sign, but it's also in India, they have a caste system, and this dictates the caste system of how they intermarry.
Okay.
Okay, number 4, Gonardaya. It's the duties and privileges of the wife. And it covers all of what she should be doing, the cooking, the cleaning, the baby making, and baby taking care of. All right, then 5, Goni Kapura. Friends and family, ways to deepen bonds with them.
That sounds like a dish. It sounds like an Indian dish.
Yeah. But these are non-sexual friendships and relationships. And then 6, Charayama. This one had me shook, y'all. They have a principle in here for men who want to date courtesans and prostitutes. It teaches them how to use them properly to build confidence in themselves and probably their sexual prowess before they pursue a wife.
I think that's great. I
Yeah.
do.
But then it had me shook again because it's also about fixing past relationships with friends and ex-lovers and how to become wealthy.
Huh.
And then what to look for in a committed partner. So that one is all over the place.
It really is. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And then the last one, Kuchamara, occult practices. It teaches you about sexual legends, myths, and practices, and personal grooming, perfumes, oils, and homeopathic remedies for sexual problems.
And I'm sure
I like that.
somehow
I like that.
in the culture in that time, all those things,
In that time is very important.
right, kind of were more interwoven than they are now.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, that is really fascinating.
Yes.
So, and just so y'all know, another little fact, this is one of the most pirated books in the English language. So they got a hold of this after 1883 when Sir Richard Burton took his butt over there. They got a hold of it and it spread like wildfire. Everybody was trying to, get a version of it. So,
Yeah.
so I just don't know how this Kama Sutra, this very, very religious and spiritual text got turned into just this watered down version. And I could go on and on for days about, the appropriation of the Kama Sutra, but I'm not.
What year did Richard Burton find it?
1883.
So this has been appropriated since 1883.
Yes. And my version of my book, like I said, it's some Ann Hooper, who of course her name is not Indian, so she, but she specializes in this. This version was copyrighted in 1994.
Okay.
And I would love to see what it looks like now in 2024.
Right.
So I have a little book that's not this size, but it's like that you can kind of travel with. And I forgot where I got it from, but it just has the poses, about 26 of them that you can kind of go through. And just to have, it's on my bedside, but it's just a little mini version.
Inspiration.
Yeah, inspiration. But I've always been intrigued by the Kama Sutra.
Girl,
It's
I
like,
know you
yeah.
do not keep this book on your bedside.
It's interesting that it's a spiritual text, and they made a little book for you to keep on your. I'm sure that's what it was made for,
it's
right?
on my altar.
So-
yeah.
Well, but there's parts missing. You didn't get that book for spirituality. When someone gave that to you.
No, I didn't.
Right, exactly.
You got it for the
But it's-
bone chicken.
yeah,
bone
But
bone.
it's just interesting that because I didn't. I did learn that there was a spiritual practice to it. I didn't do a deep dive, but I just wish that someone could actually bring forth those 7 verses.
The real
Yes,
text.
the original.
Well, it's kind of like the Bible. We'll never see those,
I know.
real scrolls and stuff.
All of the
All of
scrolls
them,
that are
Torah,
missing.
Yeah.
Quran,
Well,
Men had
anyway,
power.
that's another conversation and we can go there, but we have our guest Lived here with us. And we're going to talk tantric sex, y'all, because that's what she is known for. So, now knowing for all of us that the Kama Sutra has its roots in spirituality, does Tantra also have its roots in spirituality or is it different?
So the word Tantra is a Sanskrit word that means to weave together. So that's, if you actually look up the translation of what does the word Tantra mean, it means to bring all those 7 parts, right? Everything from home life, how to handle past healing, and your sexuality, how to bring all that together. And so this book is from what they call the Vedic, the Indian tradition of Tantra. And so it's all
So
all
was Tantra
part of this.
first? Did that come first? And then the Kama Sutra came after Tantra? And
So in China and in India around that same time, 1st, 2nd, 3rd century, whatever time period it really was, we don't exactly know. There was information that people somehow tapped into. Like, we don't know where that philosopher got all that information.
Yeah.
My answer would be from spirit, right?
Yes.
And similar to if you go to a yoga class and you do a sun salutation, somebody made that up, right? Somebody got that information of
downloaded.
this is a process you can do with your body that'll help you feel better, right? So this philosopher got all this information for how to weave together yourself in a more holistic way. In China, at the same time, the same information came in what's called Taoist sexuality. So that's more like Chinese medicine approach, but so similar, so much of the same teachings and really holistic. So these scripts, the 7 pieces, is what really initiated Tantra teachings into the world, as well as the information that came in China at that same time. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That is.
That's very
Yeah.
And I love when downloads happen across cultures.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like when we as humans, as a human race, it's time for us to receive whatever information is being passed along.
And it makes sense, right? It's like if you look at the world right now, technology is developing similar, right? People are coming up with similar ideas in China and in America, and right, we're all evolving similarly. Yeah.
And that makes me wonder because they say, there's no original idea. And something like you said, I could be thinking and making up. Somebody else across the U.S. or across the world could be doing it.
The exact
And
same
so,
thing.
but I think it's tapping into, like you said, spirit or the universe, whatever you want to call it.
Source.
Yep.
Excellent.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about you, Liv, what you do and how you got here, and more specifically. I've been on your website, so I'm super interested in the fact that you call yourself a pussy witch.
I like
Girl, I got to know.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah.
Pussy witch.
That is beautiful.
Oh, my God.
That is,
Oh,
This
come
is
on,
my
girl.
first tattoo.
Break it. I just got
All right.
the
how old did
feels,
you?
'cause I'm like,
How old were you when you got this tattoo?
So I
You don't have
was
to give your age.
maybe about 26, 27. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I like to say this whole area is my plan C life, right? Like
Oh,
you got plan A, plan B, plan C. So my plan A was I went to get a PhD in psychology. I got married.
okay, wait,
Yeah.
hold up. How did you end up at school in Indiana? Where did Indiana University?
I went to Indiana University for
Bloomington?
my undergrad. Yes.
So
Mhm.
just so you know, I'm from Gary, Indiana. Shout out to my
Yep.
peeps. And I went to Indiana University, but
Wow,
it was the
okay.
Northwest campus. But I also went to Purdue, so I'm kind of like an anomaly
Yeah.
because you usually don't go to both of them.
Oh, how funny.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
how did you? I'm gonna seg that real. How did you end up in Indiana?
I was born there. That's
You were
where I was
born there?
born. Yep.
Oh,
Mhm.
where?
In Columbus, Indiana. It's about 60,000 people. It's small. Everybody says, "Where are you from?" Columbus. Oh, Columbus, Ohio. No,
Yeah, I
Columbus,
love it.
Indiana. Nobody knows about it.
Born and raised in
yeah.
Indiana and Gary, and I never heard of Columbus.
See? Yeah.
Wow.
Not even
Okay.
Indiana people.
All right,
know.
I had
That's
to know
amazing.
that. I had to
Okay,
know
yeah.
that. Okay, let's get back on the subject.
That's my dad got a job there. That's where my family was.
Okay.
And everybody said, "You're smart. You'd be a great teacher. You should just keep going to school. Go to school, get a PhD, teach college." I got married when I was 19. I married a professor. And so I was like, okay, well, that's academia, college. That's going to be my life. And about halfway through my program, I started to get really sick and depressed. And I would go to school and I would cry in my office. And I was like, this is not right. Like,
Wow,
my body was
far off
saying,
your path.
my body said this is not right. My mind said this is not right. But I had no idea, like, what was I supposed to do?
Isn't that amazing though that your body
Mm.
can speak to you so much so,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of
Mhm.
people don't even listen to the signs.
They don't
Mm-mm.
listen.
Yeah.
No. And I didn't listen for a long time. You know, it had to get bad enough that I had some pretty serious health problems going on. And yeah, so that was my wake up
And
call.
part of that is back to these religious,
Right.
or sorry, not religious, but these spiritual ideas of sexuality and intimacy,
Mm-hmm.
where it dealt with everything, with a
Mhm.
holistic life.
Mm-hmm.
And then here in the West, we separate all that out. The body, the emotions, the mind,
Mhm.
everything is a separate thing. And that's just not human.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, go on.
So I got my wake up call through getting really sick, and I started meditating. I started doing healing with food. I like to say my parents were old school kind of hippies, and I had written off everything that they did as crazy. But like I remember sitting on my dad's lap on Saturday mornings while he would meditate. I didn't know what I called it, just like I would go snuggle with him in his lap and he'd meditate, you know?
That's awesome.
So I had that in my upbringing, but I said, that's crazy. I'm going to ignore all that. And then when I got sick, it just naturally came back. So through meditating, I started to have visions of working with people and teaching classes and doing healing and teaching even the things I was already starting to learn. But I had no idea how to get there. Like, how do I go from I'm in my PhD program to that? I don't know. But I started just talking to people and talking about what I was going through and asking questions, and came to this point that it was like a breaking point. And it was a Christmas break, 2016. And I was like, I can't go back. Like, I can't go back to my life as it was. I told my now ex-husband, I'm like, I got to go find my answers. I got to go explore the world. Asked him if he wanted to come. He was like, I'm living my dream. This is my life. This is my path. You should go find your answers.
Wow.
So
It sounds like you two kept your soul contract, and
I was just about to
it was
say.
over.
and it was
The contract
complete.
was
Yep.
up.
Yeah.
And you honored that.
You
Yeah.
both
That's
did.
beautiful. Both
For
of you.
him to be so
Yeah.
gracious, like that was wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said, he was like, if I if I found myself in your shoes, I would need the same thing, you know? So
And that, because what was the age gap between you two?
we were 13 years apart. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
See, he
Yep.
knew, like
So-
at 19 years old.
You were married
like,
so young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And for you to realize finally, this is
Mhm.
what I'm supposed to be doing. I got to
Mhm.
go.
Mhm.
That was very gracious of him to
Yeah.
let you do
Mhm.
that,
Yeah.
being so young.
You have
Grateful
a
to
good
him.
picker. Anyway, go on.
So I just kind of set out and I became nomadic, I called it. I didn't have a home base. I would stay with friends or lived in my car and just started to follow wherever I felt drawn. And Austin happened to be one of the first places I went. A high school friend of mine had moved here and I called him up. I just knew, I'm like, I got to call John. And I'm like, I just left my marriage. I can go anywhere. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do next. I want to do something about healing and wellness. And he's like, yeah, come to Austin and do ecstatic dance and come meet this amazing old man that I just met who's like super wise and come, get in Barton Springs. I'm like, okay, here we go. So I show up and I go to meet this amazing old man that he says he's just met. And he says, okay, we're going to do something called body presentation today. I'm like, all right. And he's like, we're all going to get naked
Oh.
and we're going to say everything that we feel uncomfortable about or insecure or.
And it was like men and women in a
Yep.
circle. Okay.
Yep. It was my
That's
friend.
when I would have been like, check
This guy and his
please.
wife. Yeah.
I don't know, y'all. I ain't getting naked.
And I was like, I need to do this. Like, I need to do this. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm going to say, And so everybody took their turn and everybody said the same kind of things. Like, I feel insecure about my belly, or I worry about my armpit hair, or, I had acne or whatever it was. And I'm like, men and women, like we all have the same insecurities.
I was going to say the men and the women were all saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or I'm too fat, I'm too skinny, I'm too tall, I'm not tall. Like
Mhm.
all the same
Insecurities.
themes. Yeah. And so I had my turn, and I don't think I had ever been naked in front of anybody besides my parents when I was a kid and
Right.
my
Your
lovers,
husband.
my husband. Yeah.
Mhm.
And it was so freeing. And before I left, I was like, who are you? What is this? What do you even call this? And so this guy, his name is Ed Epperson, and he's like a Tantra teacher.
Is he
And
still
so
here? In
he's
Austin?
still here. He turns 86 this year.
Wow.
And
wow.
he's definitely on his way out. He's been on his way out for a long time, but he's got Parkinson's pretty severely now.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I just kind of happened upon this meeting and I said, I want to learn from you. Like, I don't know if you teach people, I don't know if you do classes. And he goes, nope, I just call people. I just talk to him on the phone. I'm like, can you call me? Can I get on that phone list?
And I just want to say, like, I hear you, like, whoa, what's going on? But clearly this man created a space that felt safe enough
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
all of you.
Yeah.
No, but I was
Mhm.
just thinking, if
Yeah.
your intention is for healing,
Mhm.
then that
Mhm.
space gets created. Because
Yeah.
I would normally be like, no, too. Like,
And-
what are we
and
doing?
the
I'm outta
little
here.
backstory
Well, you
is-
know, if I were seeking the healing, I
Mhm.
would go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
I'm just being a funny girl. I'm like,
my friend who took me there, my friend who I had called and said, what should I do? When we had that catch up, he'd gone from living in Indiana, working for the local newspaper or something like that, to running his own business. And he had never been happy dating, never could get girlfriends, never could have any fulfillment in his sexual life, super depressed. And he was just blooming, And so I just told him, I'm like, I want to do whatever you did to find your happiness, find your joy. And so when he said you should come meet this old man, I'm like, okay, I trust my
This
friend.
is making me
Yeah.
want to go take a class. Like,
I know. But
Yeah.
part of me is still like, you ain't finna see my goodies. And then part of me is like, ooh, let's get naked.
Yeah.
Let's get raw. Let's talk about it.
And I think at the heart of it, it's about healing the relationship with the body, right? And with the self. And it's like taking away any sense of we're wrong and bad because we're humans in this human body, right? And it's like, I call that original sin wound, even sometimes.
And this is what I like to tell my
Mhm.
clients. We chose these bodies.
Mm-hmm.
We chose these bodies that we're walking around in, and yet we're so hard on them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Me included.
Yes.
I'm not, absolved from this,
Yeah.
but I find that fascinating.
Well, let me
Yeah.
ask this question. Yeah, we did choose these bodies, but I think it's what we do to them after we're here within them that then starts the judgment.
Because it's not in
We're not taking care of our vessels
of our vessel in the
way that we
way that we saw when
Yes.
we first came in. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So after that, I started having these phone calls with Ed, and he would say, you should read this book. You should go take this class. You should check out this workshop. Watch this YouTube. And just bit by bit, he kind of pointed me into my introduction to this whole field of how is our sexuality, our life force, our body, how that's all part of the healing journey rather than seeing it as something separate, like my sexuality is over here and all my other healing and wellness and health is over here. He helped me see it as all together. And I just started taking classes, going to workshops.
Amazing for you that you experienced that so young.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's I think we're all really here to learn and focus on certain lessons, and this is I would say it chose me, or I chose this a long, long time ago before I got here. So.
When you were not happy and your body was giving you reactions, you chose it then. Yeah.
Even
or even before
with baby.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I love it.
Well, I still didn't get my answer though. Why are you a pussy witch? Let's get down to brass tactics right now.
So it's an interesting one too. I experience a lot of visions. So like when I'm meditating, like I said, when I started meditating again, I saw the life I was going to be living now, right? Like I said, I saw myself teaching classes and doing healing work. So this was a couple years into that journey. I had this vision that I was standing up and I reached up to the sky and I caught these 2 lightning bolts like this. And it was like this gold lava melted down my arms. I had no idea what that meant. And I saw it get solidified and like turn black, like metal was molten and flowing and then turn black. And I'm like, that looks like a tattoo. That's kind of weird. I don't have any tattoos. Wonder what that means. And at that point, I was going through a shift into like really teaching more, sharing more, being more visible in public from learning, like being a student to sharing more. And it was actually in 2020 when the pandemic happened. I had that vision right before we went into lockdown. I was in LA at the time, and I had another vision that I could see that whatever I had seen happen in that first thing was a tattoo, and it was 2 powerful statements on either of my arms, and it was like a message. And I was like, what does it say? And I couldn't see it yet. So a couple months later, we're like well into the lockdown, and I did a plant medicine healing journey, and I heard these 2 sentences: pussy to the earth, I'm a witch. And then this arm says, I am my word, and my word creates my world.
Wow.
And I heard those, and it was that voice, whatever God spirit was like, that's your tattoo. And now you got to go find somebody to get this tattoo during COVID.
Yeah, right.
And it was just piece by piece. I woke up one morning and had that same voice say, call your friend in Australia. She knows the person who's going to do the tattoos. Found this lady, got the tattoos. And so at that point, I had never used the words pussy witch before. Like I just heard this phrase, right? And I followed that willingness to get the tattoo. And once I got it, people started asking me like, why would you do this? Why would you get this tattoo even if you don't understand it yourself? And it was like my own way to learn what that meant as I had it, right? And the way I understand it now is that this womb, my pussy, my yoni, the whole of my what makes me a woman in my feminine body is my connection to source. It's like I receive and I hear things and I
When
see
you
things.
received this download from
Mhm.
Source, was it made clear to you that that is the woman's connection to Source, or that is your specific connection to Source?
I would say it's more global. It's like anyone in a body that has this anatomy, that has this womb, that has a yoni, that has this receptive way of being built. Yeah.
And is that area, the yoni,
hmm
attached to root chakra or attached to sacral chakra?
It's both.
It's both.
Yeah, it really is both.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when I got this, when I heard these phrases, I was out in nature in this medicine journey, and I was sitting down on a tree, which is also interesting, right? Because it was like,
Yep.
I heard that phrase, but it was my body was actually on the ground,
And
on
it was like
roots,
plant
on
medicine,
a tree.
like the plant goddess was
Yeah.
talking to
You were
Yeah.
connected to
Yeah.
Earth.
Yeah.
Oh.
Root.
And when people say, "Well, what's a witch? What does that mean to you?" And I say it's just a woman that remembers her power, a woman that remembers that we are God. You know?
Yeah.
I love that.
So that's what pussy witch
And
means to me.
pussy
Okay,
is
I got
pussy
that
is
now
power.
and I love it.
I love it
I
too.
love what this arm says as well. I am my word, and my word is my world.
Mhm.
That is just so powerful.
Very
Mhm.
powerful.
Mhm.
I
And
love
it's the
that.
truth.
It's
That's
the
why I
truth.
love when things are downloaded, because it's like it
Mhm.
becomes this really simple
So
truth
clear.
that you know on a visceral, like on a core level. Like, no,
Mhm.
of course.
Mhm.
It's another way of saying like your tongue is your sword, right?
Mhm.
What you speak out is what is
Mhm.
what is
Yes.
manifested.
Yeah.
It's just it's
Manifestation.
beautiful.
I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of the mantra I am, because whatever you
Yep.
say after that
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
builds your
Mhm.
world or dictates your world.
Yeah.
Okay, very interesting. Okay, so can you tell us, we talked a little bit about it in correlation to the Kama Sutra, but can you tell us what Tantra is? And is that different from tantric sex? Or are they one
And
and
how
the
to
same?
pronounce it properly. Is it tantra or tantra? Because I say both.
Either. It
Okay.
I
really
say
is.
both.
It's
I
like
s-
it's like if you were from a Latin American country, you would say like Anna, right? And if
Mhm.
you're from America, you say Anna. It's like it's just
Okay.
how you say the word.
Yeah.
How
So
you say your vowels.
yeah,
Okay.
how you say the vowel is the same thing. So
Yeah.
if you would normally say it like like a, you should say tantra. And if you would
If you say
Yeah.
auntie, you should say
yes,
tantra.
tantra.
'Cause I say
Exactly.
auntie, so
Okay.
I do
tantra.
too. I
Yeah.
say tantra. Yeah.
Okay. Got
So-
it. We're all right.
so tantric sex is basically this principle 2 in the Kama Sutra that's
Mhm.
all about the actual act of sexual union with somebody else, right?
Okay.
And at the heart of it, it's really like practices to be more present in your body, using breath, sound, movements, different positions, right? And really looking at a more holistic approach to like even your reasons about why you're having sex, right?
Mhm.
Normally we have sex to procreate because it feels good or we want to connect with somebody, right? And I would say in general, when you're looking at actual tantric sexual practices, there's often this other piece, which is to connect to source, to connect to God, to connect to yourself.
Does it have to do
Right.
with creation?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, because like the second chakra is creation, right?
mhm,
The
mhm.
sacral. So that's why I was
Yes.
like, all these things are aligning
Yes.
with chakra. And when I say creation, not just the child.
No, life,
But
your life, yourself, what you're doing in the world. I would say in your kind of breakdown that you gave of these different parts, that's also like the occult practices, right? Of how do I work with my own sexuality for creating my life, creating what I want to see in the world around me, having good relationships with people, creating my home,
Your joy.
my joy.
Okay.
Yeah. So
That's really amazing.
the actual pieces of how Tantra talks about sexual acts and sexuality is just a tiny part. But it's as we know, sex sells, right? And so it's like, I think that right now this is getting really popular in the world because so many of us want a deeper level of awakening, of connection, of understanding what are we even doing here? Like, what
Exactly.
is this thing? And why are we sitting on this couch? Why are we having this conversation, right? And the shiny, sparkly, ooh, I could have an orgasm or I could have more pleasure is attractive, right? That's the magnet that people often first get drawn in by. But it's like these teachings and practices are endlessly deep, really, for, I think, to help us understand more of the real nature of reality. So
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Well, the thing I find interesting, though, about tantric sex versus regular sex, tantric sex you can do by yourself.
yes.
You don't have to have that other person there. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. And this is so good because even when I work with couples, even when I have couples come in and they're like, okay, help us in our sex life, help us have better sex. I so often ask them, what's your own relationship like with your sexuality? What's your self-pleasure like? What's your relationship with your body? Do you listen to your body? Do you take care of your body? So to me, self-practice is the starting point for everybody, no matter if you're single, if you're poly, if you're married, if you've been, if you want to have partners or not. It all comes back to our relationship with ourselves because I think because of this piece with creation, really, it's like, can I start to understand that this second chakra area of my body is my power center, is my personal access to being alive as a human, right? That's the other thing is life force, right? It's like sexual energy to me is the same thing that grows my fingernails and helps me be radiant and look alive and vibrant or not. You know, it's the same energy.
I could tell we both have something.
Oh, I know.
Okay, go. You can go first.
I was just going to say, and it's also kind of awkward for someone who's been in a relationship. Maybe you haven't had time to actually get comfortable with yourself and your body. And so going there and actually exploring your body. And we might also have these blockages based on childhood, based on religion, based on things that happened from trauma in our life to where we're not comfortable exploring our own bodies, because I feel like that's where it all starts. That creation, it starts with us wanting to like be comfortable with who we are in our bodies.
Yeah, I have. I agree. Right. I have a question for you. Working with people, what happens when there's people who are only comfortable with themselves? Like, I'm curious how you tease out or address where they're being blocked to connect with someone else. Right. That's like the opposite end of the spectrum problem. Do you run into that?
Yeah. I mean, that's a huge part of it, right? And I think it's,
I mean, do you find that's pretty normal right now?
I would say, like, second to this piece I talked about, healing our shame and our wrongness of our body is healing this general idea of like the wrongness of connection with other people, right?
Okay.
We don't learn how to be close, a lot of us, most of us, right? It's like some people have families that are really loving and affectionate and it's okay to cuddle or give a hug, right? But even in the world, it's like, don't be too cuddly. Don't be too close, right? Don't let those people know how you really, we're healing this separation piece. So that's very much like second to healing with the body, then healing with connection.
And the reason I ask is so all of us are from the same generation. But we were talking about Gen Z and younger, right? Her grandchild's generation and my daughter's generation, your daughter's. And there's a concern that the separation is just growing and growing and growing with all of the social media and with so I was just wondering if you had any tips for people who don't, just listening.
Yeah.
If they're noticing this within themselves, within their or with the friend or their child, things that we can do or explore or question about ourselves to help with that connection?
Yeah. This might be oversimplistic, but I would say it comes back to staying connected to your breath
Okay.
and your body, like moment by moment, right? So it's even
I
like,
don't think that's oversimplistic. I think that's
I
rare.
think that's
Okay, so go on.
so it's if you're noticing that it's hard to feel connected with other people, right? Whether it's your kids or whoever, it's like, can I just take a moment and be quiet and like breathe with the person next to me, right?
Mhm.
Even one breath. And so it's like getting out of the mind, getting out of all this analysis of like, what's going on? Am I okay? Is what I'm saying okay? Did they hear? Like, and actually just bring it back to like,
So like
get
have your
present, get
teenager
still.
sit in front of you and you're
Or you're
arguing
even-
about taking the car out. And it's
Yeah.
like, can we just stop
Yeah.
quietly and just breathe together?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or
Okay.
you may not even not need to say it. It's like there you are with your teenager, you're in the kitchen. Mom, I just want to go da, 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 da. Oh, I'm going to do it myself. Okay, you really want the car. I really don't want you to have the car. You know, it's like just slowing things down and coming back to that breath. That's very often, you know, in almost any Tantra workshop that you go to, it starts out with the facilitator saying, let's all take a breath together, right?
Yeah.
But I love what you just said. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'd love that you said that just take it by yourself because you might have this honorary
yeah.
teenager.
Yeah.
He's like, take a
Yeah.
breath. I want the car. Right?
Exactly.
And so it's like,
Yeah.
all
and
right.
it's and
that's
it's all
tricky.
about how we are, right? I can only change how I am
Right.
Mhm.
in that moment. But
And
if
how
I
you
get
respond.
if I get a millimeter more present, if I get a millimeter more settled, right? I can actually
And that's an energy
interact
shift
with life.
that can then help the child.
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
mental pauses, say alarms in my phone. So
Mhm.
every few hours, it's like, ding, take a mental pause, which is breathing.
Mhm.
Just taking that moment to like, oh, everything's going to be just fine, even though I'm
Mhm.
still driving. Just
Yeah,
taking those moments.
I
just
can't
to
tell you how
breathe.
many people I work on and the energy around their thoracic and diaphragm is just congested.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I'll say, I want you to concentrate and breathe into this area. And it's almost, some people can't do it.
Yeah.
Their
Yeah.
breath is
Yeah.
so shallow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think that's a great piece. For all of you guys listening or watching, like, stop and take a nice breath.
Uh-huh. I call it stop, drop, and breathe.
Like,
Like,
drop
yeah.
and breathe.
Homework
and
tonight.
breathe.
Yeah.
Well, I want to add in that this is very important, especially for people with small children.
Mm.
My granddaughter is 3. She'll be 4 on Monday. And something that I started out when she would throw her tantrums, I have this little lavender cream and I put some more drops of lavender in it and I rub it in between her hands and I just tell her to breathe it in. And she'll, like, when she went to my ex-husband's house, his wife, she was amazed that can stop a tantrum like that. And she just breathes it in.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say, do it again. So we take like 3
Mhm.
breaths. And then it's all of a sudden, she's floating on air. She's calm.
People should start using this for their spouses.
Yes.
Hello, darling. Breathe.
I would have to buy that in like gallons and just throw it on Julia. Okay. So I want to ask you if you can talk a little bit about the appropriation of Tantra and the neo-tantric movement.
Yeah. This is an interesting one. Like I said, sex sells, right?
Mhm.
And so if you put the word tantric cacao, tantric breathwork, tantric whatever,
I
like
love that tantric
people are
cacao.
gonna, people are gonna be like, "Ooh, what's that?" I'm gonna
Yeah.
go check it out. So that's definitely happening, and I would say my kind of pivot response to that is, I want to trust humanity. Like I want to trust that across the board, we're actually going in a good direction. Like I want
Mhm.
to trust that as much as I can use these teachings for my personal gain and making money and manipulating power, I want to trust that for the most part, people have a good heart and they have a good intention.
Yeah.
And that everybody is coming from a place of like, wow, what have I found that's worked for me? And if people are teaching and sharing, I want to trust that they're coming from actually wanting to share that, actually wanting to help people, actually wanting to take people further. So
Is it important to you to teach the history, to teach where this originated?
It's interesting. I would say I think it's important to answer whatever people are wanting, right? And so some people really do want to and need to, and it's helpful to have this background knowledge, right? Other people need stop, drop, and breathe.
Yeah.
It's like wherever people are at, I think
So you're meeting them where they are.
they're going to get what they need in that moment. So it's like having a lot of barriers to actually use these teachings and practices, I don't think is going to help anybody. And, it's like a lot of what I've shared even here. It's like I consider myself very ignorant, actually, about the history of Tantra. Like I know the basics, but I haven't personally gone on a deep dive quest of reading all the original translations of this text, right? Or anything like that. Because also for me, it hasn't felt like.
And that's not how it was presented to you either.
Yeah. But I don't
Yeah, I don't
think,
know. I think I have a mixed feeling about this one. I love what you said about let's not get involved in barriers. Of course, we have to meet people where they are. And I come from a psychological background too, right? So that is the only way to really kind of affect healing. I'm also concerned, though, that it's so easy to lose the respect and to give credence to where these things were born, right? And if we could find a way to sort of bridge that in a way that's not like, oh, we don't have any right to teach this or do this. Of course we do. That's why it's out there, right? It's out there for the world to share. But I just wonder, as generations go, how much is going to get lost to the point where they don't even know if you want to read the transcripts. Like, I think that's why the Kama Sutra, no one knows that that's a spiritual practice because of gentrification. So that's where I just worry about what gets lost when we don't give credence to where it started.
I mean, but that's some of everything. Like the further we get away from it, like look at what's happening with the teachings of slavery. Like this is a whole different subject, but they want to erase history. Not that Tantra or the Kama Sutra has been erased, but these things, we don't know of them in their originality. And the more you get away from it, the more it's like,
it almost feels like it's dumbed down, I think is my concern. But that's why I thought what you were doing was so interesting, because I feel like you are coming from an educational place, right? Like you are an educator. That's what's clear to you when you were young. Everyone, oh, you're so smart, go be a professor, right?
Yeah.
So you are coming from this educational place. You are incorporating all the parts of this that are so necessary. I just don't know. I love that you have so much faith in humanity. I don't think it's a matter of people not having a good intention. I think it's a matter of ignorance. And because of your nature of being curious, you've learned enough to pass on what's important about Tantra.
and
I worry about the people who aren't naturally curious, right? So that's why I said
it's a great perspective. It is, I think.
And it's tricky.
Yeah. It makes me think this might be left field, but in Australia, if you go to a workshop or a class, almost always there's this practice at the beginning that they acknowledge the keepers of the land. Like they'll acknowledge the name of the original tribe.
I love that.
That was there in that place. If it's Sydney, it's one. If it's Melbourne, it's another. And when I started to see that, I thought, wow, like even
we don't do that in America.
We don't know. I don't know the name of the native people who took care of Austin, Texas.
No.
Like I really don't. And so there is something beautiful about that connection to respect for where things
and not
came
getting
from.
bogged down in it.
Yeah.
Just giving exactly the way they do down under. I
Giving
like that.
homage.
I didn't know that. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
We should all start doing that.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah. Because I had a thought, and this is a little far left on that. Yesterday, we were having a conversation about paying taxes. And I had a thought, I'm like, do the Native Americans have to pay taxes? And I don't think they should have to.
They don't
They don't.
on their tribal land.
On the reservation.
On the reservation. So like the casinos and all that, they don't have to pay taxes on that.
They shouldn't have to pay it anywhere.
I agree.
So anyway, I'm going to go to my
Tantra to taxes.
I know. Oh, that's good.
That's what we'll call this.
That's the name of your episode.
So my last question for you, Liv, is I saw a lot of testimonials from women on your website, but is there a different approach when you're working with men and women? And if there is, like, why?
It's a really good question. Something I say to most people I work with is that it can be hard to tell you exactly what we'll work on because it's for you or for you or for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't have a starting point of, well, if I'm working with a man, then I'm going to talk about these things or not these things. Or it's more like, what does that person need to work on and what do they want to focus on? What I would say is that there's an element for, I think, everyone who comes into, so a lot of the work I do is hands-on healing work with people's bodies, including their whole body, including their genitals. So it's less often when I'm working with somebody who has a female body that there's any element of them necessarily having a concern or a thought of like, well, what if she's into me or is she into me? Or, there's less, just because there is this heteronormative cultural context of we're two women together. And when I'm working with men's bodies, that's usually something I talk about more directly. Like, this is not a sexual experience. This is not an intimate interaction.
You're also an attractive young woman, so that would have to come up.
Yeah. So it's like I sense into, and sometimes it's just really not even there. It's just really not even present. It's like, depending on what people are there to work on, So I'd say it comes up less with women. But what I've found is that just speaking about this, right? Speaking about also being clear, like, I'm not here to turn you on. I'm not here to be a part of a sexual experience for you. I'm here
with
for
the couples,
healing. Yeah. So it's it can come up with women too, right? I think it's helpful to say for everybody to some degree, like, this experience is for you, as much as you can, just, really being here for yourself. Yeah.
I want to say this one thing before you close us out. And that is, obviously, thank you so much. I think what's most amazing about downloads that happen across nations, how we started, is that people receive it to heal the people that respond to them. And you clearly have your own plethora of people that need healing, that understand you, that feel safe with you. And I think that's absolutely beautiful. And I hope more people go out there and find ways to heal in this manner that is countercultural, that is away from our norms, right?
Yeah.
So I really wanted to say thank you for that.
Thanks for naming that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
This was very interesting. And I hope y'all out there enjoyed this as much as we did.
Yeah.
Because y'all, this got me sweating up in here like I just ate a pot of spicy gumbo. So next week on The Cauldron, we will delve deeper into the countercultural lifestyle as we take you into the world of kink. Ooh, I can't wait for that. Ooh, so be sure to join us as we continue to stir the pot.
Yay. Right. And then tell us how to find you.
Oh, yeah.
How do we find you?
Instagram is the best way to follow me. So it's Liv, LIVLOVE, Tantra. Live, love, Tantra.
And we can
Love
post
Tantra.
that too, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Yay.
I post all my
so
workshops and
much.
classes on
And
there.
congratulations.
I know.
This might be my last photo or video like this.
Right. You never know.
Well, we're glad
honored.
you didn't have the baby here in the studio.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right,
Yes.
y'all. Take care. We'll see you next week.
Is